Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your Monday Night Raw results and Superstar spoilers. And as usual, the wrestling news is going on around the world for Monday. That's what's going on that I have found on your dirt sheets. Of course, wrestling in the Olympics is no longer a choice. It's been removed from the Olympics. WWE Hall of Famer Iron Sheik wants to humble Houston, Texas running back Arian Foster. It all started when Foster asked his Twitter followers to recommend humorous Twitter pages. Sheik fired off a "make you humble old country way" tweet, and then back and forth exchanges were on. And you can view Houston Press writer Sean Pendergast's story on the feud at HoustonPress.com. The usual Iron Sheik shtick, combined with responses from a Pro Bowl running back, is a recipe for fun. .NET member Chris Ketchmark reported that this was discussed this morning on a local radio show in Minnesota, so the story is getting some attention. Pendergast is a big wrestling freak, and as Jim Ross on his Yahoo Sports radio network show on Saturday mornings. .NET reader Dan Jones attended the WWE Raw event in Springfield, Missouri on this past Saturday and sent the following injury report from CM Punk. During the tag main event of Punk and Antonio Cesaro versus The Miz and Ryback. Ryback did a spot where he put Cesaro in a classic Davey Boy Smith elongated vertical suplex, as well as The Miz attempted to do, and that probably had him up for a good 20 seconds before Punk rushed into the ring with a double axe handle to break it up. The Miz stopped him with a kick to the gut, and then Punk did the elongated vertical suplex of his own. This was an obvious premeditated spot and looked really cool. Ryback ended up holding Cesaro up there for a good 45 seconds, whereas Miz only had him up for maybe 10 seconds or so. When they went to finish their suplexes in unison, simultaneously, Ryback properly fell backward and put Cesaro on his back in a normal, safe fashion, whereas The Miz literally dropped him straight down on his neck in a true, straight-up brainbuster. I came out of my seat in a disbelief. "You dropped him on his neck. What the F?" Unquote, by the reporter. Punk immediately rolled to the floor, and the WWE trainer, looking concerned, immediately ran over to him to check on him. Punk was on the floor for several minutes before slowly getting back up to his feet and made his way back up onto the apron in his corner, where he spent the next 5 minutes red-faced with his arms hanging and resting on the top rope, as constantly shaking his right hand and stretching it open and closed. Up until that point in the match, Punk had been very involved, both verbally and physically, but during those 5 minutes on the apron, he frankly looked out of it. In my opinion, the reporter made it as he suffered what is commonly called a stinger. To Punk's credit, he did tag back in and eventually found himself in the ring with The Miz. They ended up outside the ring, and Punk gave Miz a shin kick to the ribs that could be heard in the parking lot, followed by a few stiff forearms to the head before rolling Miz back inside the ring. Punk probably worked 2 to 3 minutes after that, and Ryback ended the match with his finish on Cesaro. Punk quietly and slowly walked to the back, immediately holding the back of his neck the entire way, and never looked back or played to the crowd. This may be of some note as well. The reporter's fiance and I braved the wind and the rain to stand outside after the event, where the wrestlers came out to leave. Aside the Punk's bus, The Miz with 2 other guys who didn't appear to be wrestlers, though one could have possibly been Alex O'Reilly, and as he is fairly normal-looking guy, walked out to his car. He had parked very high on the ramp and was 10 feet from us when he looked very down and out. Honestly, I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time, but I assume he got an earful from Punk and others. Miz looked like a scolded puppy as he put his gear bag in the back of his crossover. I say, "Hey, Miz, good match tonight." He said, "Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys." But even his words were noticeably depressed. Earlier this Sunday, Punk was said to be sore afterwards, but he was expected to wrestle at Sunday's live event. He did indeed work the live event and should be okay for Raw. And Dad had passed along the photo of his fiance, took a second just before the botched suplex. And I will also post that photo on my Facebook account. The advertisement event from Raw was Ryback and John Cena versus CM Punk and Dolph Ziggler. Look for that match to be changed. As Punk worked the live event on Sunday in Cape Girardeau, despite suffering the injury on Saturday when The Miz dropped him head first while trying to execute the suplex, it's safe to assume Punk will not work the main event dark match, though it's possible his in-ring involvement could be limited. They ran 7 over 9 2012.net awards over the weekend, according to ProWrestling.net. They say the best pro wrestler in the Pro Wrestling MVP categories for Monday. And check out the winners. Voting as determined by reader vote and staff members on the awards, past and present, in the awards section on ProWrestling.net. Happy birthdays go to the following wrestlers. Tara, real name Lisa Marie Verone, turned 42 on Sunday. She was born February 10th, 1971. The late Louis Spicoli, a.k.a. Louis Musioli Jr., was born February 10th, 1971. He performed in WWE as Rad Radford, or actually WWF. The late Chris Adams was born February 10th, 1955. He died on October 7th, 2001, when he was shot in the chest following an argument with longtime friend Brent Parnell, who claimed self-defense as was later cleared of all charges. Former WWE Women's Champion Madusa Alundra Blaze, a.k.a. Deborah Maselli, turned 49 on Saturday. She was born February 9, 1964. Former WWE and TNA wrestler Shelly Martinez, a.k.a. Ariel or Salinas, turned 33 on Saturday. She was born February 9th. She continues to work on the indie scene. The following matches were listed for 8 p.m. on Monday night for AWA on ESPN Classic. Brad Rengans versus D. Haas. Colonel Beers versus Knight. Sergeant Slaughter versus Earthquake Ferris. And Pat Patterson versus Bruiser Brody. Buddy Rose and Doug Summers versus Midnight Rockers. The tape date was listed as March 31st, 1986. David Chow, the surgeon who has performed multiple surgeries on WWE star Rey Mysterio, may have his medical license revoked by the California board due to allegations of gross negligence in his care of patients. Chow, who serves as the head physician for the San Diego Chargers, is being cited by the NFL Players Union as an example of why players should have a say in the selection of team doctors. Read more on the story at USA Today. Also, a story 5 years ago this month was posted on the sketchy background of Chow and noted that he has been sued 18 times, including 4 times by Chargers players for medical malpractice, negligence, or fraud. I'm not sure whether Mysterio still uses Chow as a surgeon, but I know he did even after all the negative publicity, much to the charging of some WWE official. If all of the allegations against David Chow are accurate, Mysterio may have better luck hiring Leslie Chow to patch him up. So, okay. Tyler England, Ahmed, and Matt Brink were at the Raw show in Nashville and posted the following results for superstars. Justin Gabriel, who recently just got married, defeated Titus O'Neil by 450 splash. Divas champion Caitlyn defeated Natalya with a spear. And Raw from the USA Network from Nashville, Tennessee at Bridgestone Arena. The show opened with a narrated video recap on the hype of the Rock and CM Punk saga, days before the rematch at Elimination Chamber, which is this coming Sunday, and I have to work. Michael Cole checked in on commentary along with Jerry the King Lawler and hyped that 13,600 fans were in attendance. The crowd was booing and Paul Heyman was already standing in the ring. Heyman introduced himself and said this is not how he envisioned things going down, yet he felt compelled to do it. Tonight is the last time you're ever going to see Paul Heyman, he said. See, that may make a lot of you happy. I can tell you that I may be a lot of things, but I will never in my life play the victim. Unquote. Well, Heyman also said he does everything he has done everything in his life with great passion, and passion usually ends up betraying him. For 7.5 years of my life, I sacrificed everything, he said. I gave up my personal life. I sacrificed my parents' fortune to bring viewers the vision he had that was called ECW. How many wrestlers were not paid from ECW? Heyman said he came to the WWE and he saw the most physically gifted rookie in the history in the industry. He said he used his passion and the vision to turn that rookie into the man that you know today as Brock Lesnar. Heyman then said that he met another man and felt was the epitome of the business, and the man he knew in his heart could top Bruno Sammartino's reign as WWE champion. Quote, I saw a man who would carry WWE into the future, not just the short-term future, but the long-term future in CM Punk. Heyman said he can see into the future and something really bad is going to happen. Heyman said Punk needs to be focused and understand that he will once again become the WWE champion. Heyman said he has become a distraction because the McMahons are so focused against his sins. Quote, so that's why tonight I'm tendering my resignation, unquote. Heyman said he took it at aim at the live crowd and said, you think that there would be a dry eye in the house when someone is pouring their heart out to them? He called the fans callous, and he said he has as much compassion for their pathetic lives as their problems as they do for him. The one thing I won't miss on Monday nights is the WWE Universe. He said, do you see what you drive me to? Are you proud of yourselves? Heyman said, Punk needs to be focused on becoming the WWE champion and he won't stand in his way. Heyman said, Punk is the best friend he's ever had in his life. He loves him and he won't stand in his way. Heyman said he will celebrate Punk's 455th after he scooted up like 2 or 3 times as the WWE champion. When he beats The Rock, Heyman looked up and said, I was sorry. I said goodbye. He continued. As he looked up, not once, and then as I said it again later on when Punk comes out. Well, Punk's music played and he came to the ring without a mic in hand. Punk spoke to Heyman. He grabbed the mic and asked Heyman what was he doing. I'm in your way, Heyman said. I'm in your way, Heyman said. Vince McMahon thinks that I arranged for the Shield to be paid off. I didn't, and you know that. But that's his perception. Vince McMahon said I paid for Brad Maddox to be paid off. I didn't, and you know that, and that's that. He said that again. Heyman said that Vince thinks that he has something to do with Brock's affections. Punk interrupted and said he won't let him do this. He said that the people look up to him and admire just like he does. There's a lot of Paul Heyman guys out there, and there was a few crowd chants and say, yeah, they were. Heyman said that in McMahon land, perception is reality. If you thought that Vince did to you at the Royal Rumble was screwing you, just wait until you see what he does to us next. Heyman told Punk not to remember him as a martyr, but as a friend. No, Punk said. He said that the bad dream that they are living now all goes back to normal at Elimination Chamber. Punk said he will beat The Rock, and Paul Heyman will be in the corner of the reigning and defending WWE champion for 455 days. Heyman said Punk is right. And beat The Rock you shall. Heyman said he added that he will be there on Sunday to witness the greatness happen before him. Well, Heyman said to Punk that is a gift from heaven the heavens and will be the reigning and defending WWE champion. Heyman dropped the mic and hugged Punk. As Punk was looking up himself, he looked up to the sky and said, "Thank you." Then repeatedly told Punk that he is the best in the world. Lawler checked in on commentary and said he thinks Heyman just tried to upstage the Pope. A graphic touted that The Rock would appear live on Raw later on tonight. A shot aired to Mark Henry backstage, and Jerry the King Lawler was up next as a commercial break. Another excellent performance by Heyman. A compelling segment, even if it doesn't go anywhere, now that Heyman said he won't be leaving after all. Then they also planted the seed that the McMahons are out for revenge after what Lesnar did to Vince. Highlights aired of Mark Henry roughing up Rey Mysterio on last week's Raw. Cole announced that Mysterio suffered an injury and was out of the Elimination Chamber. Highlights aired of Henry beating Randy Orton to earn a spot in the Elimination Chamber. First matchup was Mark Henry versus the Great Khali with an Italian Hornswoggle. Henry hoisted up Khali and put him away with a World's Strongest Slam. Henry left the ring. He returned and picked up Hornswoggle and put him down with the World's Strongest Slam. "That's what I do," Henry yelled. A loud "one more time" chant from the crowd, as I felt was falling asleep. And this match only took 1 minute and 35 seconds. Well, briefly after that, he got a hold of Hornswoggle and gave him the World's Strongest Slam. A graphic touted Henry versus Orton in a return match. The announcers hyped John Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback versus 3MB. Okay, announcers then was talking about Khali was up for consideration for the Elimination Chamber, so this may have been a way that they write him out of the match. I like the idea of Henry injuring potential opponents, getting him into the match. Not as much as I love Henry destroying Hornswoggle, but I do like it. Henry has to be considered the strong favorite to win the Elimination Chamber now, at this point. It is also good to see WWE advertising a match on Friday Night SmackDown. It will be a loaded SmackDown with The Rock, Punk, and Chris Jericho appearing as well. As always, we're looking for correspondence for SmackDown. If you're going to SmackDown, send me a note with the spoilers in Little Rock, Arkansas. Want to help? Don't forget to email me at tomkurtj@yahoo.com as well, or on Facebook, Tom Kurt and also on Twitter, Tom Kurt. Well, backstage segment, Booker T and Teddy Long were talking about Mark Henry when Chris Jericho approached him. Y2J says he knows they are looking for former world champions for the Elimination Chamber match. He said he is a 6-time world champion and has been in more Elimination Chamber matches than anyone in history. Well, Teddy said he was all for the idea of Jericho entering the match. Booker cut him off and said everyone has to impress him and the universe. Long said he has an idea and whispered it to Booker, who told him his idea sucked. Booker put him in a match against Daniel Bryan. Jericho impersonated Booker while saying he would be the 7-time champion. "And now can you dig that, sucker?" as he says. Well, Miss Picky was on the phone in her office talking to somebody when Paul Heyman comes entering the room. I didn't even hear him knock. This would be a segment where my daughter would come in and say, "Excuse me." Well, she didn't scream it. She just told him, "Excuse me." Okay, I lost my spot. She told him she doesn't have the time for his BS. Heyman lobbied for Vicky to add a stipulation to the WWE Championship match at Elimination Chamber, which she was reluctant to do it without Vince's approval. And she took another phone call from Vince this time and let Heyman hear it himself. Heyman wanted to talk to him. Vicky said Vince wanted to talk to him. Heyman said Lesnar was out of line. He told Heyman to shut up and told him to say what he has in mind for a stipulation. Heyman said Rock's ego is so big that he could try to keep the title by getting counted out or disqualified, so he wanted Rock to lose the title if he got counted out or disqualified. Heyman told Vince he could do anything to get that stipulation added. And Vince said, "Anything?" And so did Vicky. And she was like mumbling on everything that Vince was saying on the phone. So it's like a storyline, scripted. Vince said he wanted that in writing. Heyman agreed. Vince said that a stipulation will be added. Heyman tried to kiss Vince's ass by saying he's always looked at him as a father figure. Click. Phone hangs up. And we get Daniel Bryan's entrance as they go to commercial. A good stipulation to add. Even casual viewers assume that it will be Rock versus Cena in the rematch at WrestleMania 29, so they need to give them some reason to believe Rock's title reign is in jeopardy on Sunday. Of course, it will be interesting to see what Vince forces Heyman to do in exchange for giving him the stipulation. Then we get a Fandango. Vignette was shown, and later on he does this. Fan, dang, go. As his pronunciation of the Fandango name. And he danced with a brunette and said his name. The go in his name echoed. So what we going to have? Looks like a Disco Inferno dance or gimmick. Match number 2, Daniel Bryan versus Chris Jericho, Y2J. Booker and Long were watching backstage on the monitor. Jericho tried to springboard off the second rope over the top and onto Bryan on the ring apron. But Bryan moved. Bryan performed a fast suicide dive onto Jericho on the floor. Both men came up holding their knees as the show went to a commercial break. Both wrestlers were in the ring after the break, and there was a loud Y2J chant, and Jericho cupped his ear, Hogan style. Jericho avoided the no lock, orgasm lock, and Bryan avoided the walls of Jericho. Bryan blasted Jericho with a kick and got a 2 count. Bryan yelled no, and as he delivered the repeated kicks to Jericho, who ducked one and rolled him up for a 2 count. Moments later, Jericho hit his code breaker for the win. Coleslaw said Jericho will enter his record 8th Elimination Chamber match. And the match took 10 minutes and 45 seconds off the show. Announcer then hyped the Shield with an in-ring address for later in the show. It said the Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback versus 3MB was up next. Commercial break. And I missed this one because I was dead asleep. Bryan worked a much more aggressive style than usual. He did the no routine at times, but he was much more serious and had an even darker look into him. I'm not sure whether this is strictly for the Elimination Chamber, and the silliness returns afterwards, but I hope the character is evolving and we get more of the Bryan going forward. The silliness has been a lot of fun at times, but it's time to get serious. Highlights here from last week of Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback brawl with the Shield. Entrances for the 6-man match was up after that at the top of the second hour. Cena entrances took place at the top of the hour. John Cena, Ryback, and Sheamus versus Heath Slater, Drew McIntyre, and Jinder Mahal. The squash match concluded with a simultaneous shell shock, attitude adjustment, and white noise. Cena pinned Mahal. And the match took 2 minutes 45 seconds off the show. After the match, Ryback said Sunday is the day he's been waiting for because he will feast on the Shield. Sheamus took the mic and said that there's no reason why the three of them couldn't get some of their own justice during Raw. Cena took the mic and paused to acknowledge the many boos along with the high-pitched cheers. Cena questioned why the Shield would enter the ring. Lost my spot again. I scrolled up. Okay, the Shield would enter the ring later in the show and leave themselves vulnerable. Cena said it's a bold choice, but it's a bold one. He said justice means the law, and delivered the if you want some, come get some line. That is very, very similar to Rick Steiner. If you want some, come get some. Don't like me, bite me. And Ryback led the crowd with a Feed Me More chant. Coleslaw and the King hyped the Shield appearing live and the 6-man tag for the Elimination Chamber. They set up the footage from SmackDown of Big Show finding his tour bus wheels missing and having orange paint poured on him from the top of his RV by Alberto Del Rio. Footage aired from earlier in the day of Alex Riley telling Yoshitatsu that Big Show looked like the world's largest and fattest traffic cone. Show arrived and knocked them both out. Commercial break. And Alex Riley's name was trending world universe-wide on Twitter. on Monday night. They made Show look like a badass one day, and then they made him a comedy fodder the next. Meanwhile, the anti-Cena sentiment seems to be growing again based on the recent live crowd reaction. Of course, it's the usual dynamic with the adult males hating on him, while the women and kids cheer for him. Big Show headed to the ring for an interview with Matt Striker. Big Show, do you feel? And Striker gets knocked out. That part I did briefly wake up and seen. Then the show, Big Show picked up the mic. He looked intense and appeared to be on the verge of saying something a few times, but then always stopped short. And then Show dropped the mic and left the ring. Lawler assumed that the Show couldn't say anything that the censors wouldn't allow on the air. Meanwhile, at ringside, Clothesline Lawler set up another airing of the Bruno Sammartino Hall of Fame video. It was greeted with a light reaction from the live crowd. Lawler hyped The Rock's appearance for later in the show as they go to commercial. Match him before Jack Swagger with his new manager, supposedly. Character's name is Zeb Coulter. I did some research when I did a look back, and it's none other than Dirty Dutch Mantel. Well, Swagger took Ryder early on and performed a belly-to-belly suplex as he faced Jack Swagger. Back inside the ring, Swagger continued to mauling and finished off Ryder after Ryder missed the Rough Rider finish, but he did give him the boot in the corner. And Ryder got the Patriot Act put on him, and the match only took 2 minutes 35 seconds. After the match, Swagger introduced Zeb Coulter as a native and real American. Coulter took the mic and asked what's wrong with America. He said he and Swagger know what's wrong, but most Americans have forgotten. He said he and Swagger's father were in Vietnam with bullets zinging over their heads. We were real Americans, he said, and I see a country that I don't even recognize. I see people with faces not like mine. I see people that I don't even know what they're saying. They can't even talk to me. He said he wonders where they came from and how they can get rid of them. He said it's the land of the free and the home of the brave, not to whoever wants to cross the borders. So Dutch Mantel is back as Uncle Zebekiah. Well, kind of. The original version of the character was the manager for the Blue Brothers, Jacob and I think it's Andrew Blue, and Justin Hawk Bradshaw. It's formerly JBL. He was a member of the TNA creative team for many years. He's always been a hell of a talker. He joined us a couple of times for .NET Members audio show, and it's great to see him on the big stage. And I don't think anyone saw this coming. They are clearly setting up Swagger for a program with Alberto Del Rio based on that promo. Backstage segment again. Teddy and Booker, he said he knows Zeb from way back in the day. Booker said adding Zeb makes Swagger unstoppable, and now he's in the Elimination Chamber match. Dolph Ziggler, AJ, and Big E Langston showed up. Dolph wasn't happy that Jericho was in the Elimination Chamber match. Ziggler said he wants in the match to stop Jericho. Booker said that there's another man who wants to impress him enough to get the final spot. Ziggler agreed, and it was informed that he would be going against Kane. Announcers said Jack Swagger is in the Elimination Chamber match, and the final spot will be determined by Ziggler versus Kane. Everybody knows it's already going to be Kane. I'm not saying more than that, so prediction's right. They turned to focus on Brock Lesnar attacking The Miz. Miz made his entrance. Coleslaw hyped Chris Jericho hosting the highlight reel with special guest The Miz for the WWE main event this week. So we get match number 5, Miz versus Cody Rhodes. Antonio Cesaro sat in on commentary. Miz and Rhodes worked their way into the ringside. Worked their way to ringside. Miz glared at Cesaro eventually and kicked him once. Cesaro worked his way toward him. Cesaro recovered and Miz ran into the ring post. He picked up Miz in the slingshot position and flung him into the guardrail repeatedly and left him lying. And Miz wins by disqualification in 3 minutes 5 seconds. His Cody wasn't even shown for the rest of that segment. A creatively vicious attack by Cesaro. The ring post shot looked and sounded as good, and then repeated propelling of Miz into the rail after the match was over. Gasped the crowd each time the Miz hit the rail, and every time he did this, he go boop, 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 boop. So he protected his head. And after that, we get a WrestleMania reading challenge video airing of Brodus Clay and some other talent. And then I just hyped up coming segments for Raw. Commercial break. 10-time Brodus Clay with Cameron versus Primo and Epico of Rosa Mendez. And this is your dancing routine. Kind of reminds me of the Boogie Nights tag team. Alex Wright and Disco Inferno. Clay roughed up Epico, and Tensai checked in and performed a running senton splash. Afterwards, Clay hit and his crew danced. Tensai tapped him on the shoulder and started to dance. Rosa stepped in and jawed it at him until Cameron and Naomi teamed up to clear her from the ring. Tensai danced. And the match only took a minute 10 seconds. Tensai's dancing wasn't so fun this week. We're trying to get his act over. They're trying to get his act over. Yet they're also picking this to be the week to have Cameron and Naomi show flash while disposing of Rosa. And they were in cheerleader outfits with pom-poms. Naomi and Cameron. Coleslaw hyped the Shield's appearance for after the break. And we get the Shields make their way to the ring through the crowd. Just as normal. Once the trio entered the ring, Ambrose took the mic and said that they stand united with the purpose of shielding the WWE from the type of atrocity that John Cena commits daily. Seth Rollins brought up Cena, Ryback and Sheamus threatening them. He said that the Shield want to deliver a message. They do so through action. Roman Reigns mocked the idea of the babyfaces trio threatening them. Let's make it very simple. If you want us, come get us. He yelled. The camera cut to the stage, but no one came out. Ambrose said it was empty threats from an empty guy and three morally empty individuals. Reigns said that they brought the entire roster last week and they could bring the entire world, but the Shield will still be standing. Rollins said Cena failed last week, and every day when he sits up and exists. He said Sunday at Elimination Chamber will be no different because Cena will face again. Ambrose said, failed to set examples and smiles his day away inside his little bubble. In your world, there are no consequences, he said. Ambrose said, that's not the real world. Reigns said Cena has been the problem for the last decade. We, the Shield, are the solution, Reigns said. Rollins said that whether it was Cena's intention or not, the example he set paved the way for guys like Sheamus and Ryback to believe in the system and to believe in him. He said that they have a chance to rectify a decade of injustice in one fell swoop. Ambrose said that they should breathe as much fresh air because the Shield will drown them. Reigns yelled, believe in the Shield, and dropped the mic. Ambrose said that this was their last chance. The Shield isn't going anywhere, he said. Lawler said that he is surprised that no one has come out to confront them tonight. The lights went out in the building, surprise. Just like during the Super Bowl, the lights came back on. Well, Cena, Ryback, and Sheamus were in the ring brawling with the Shield. Babyface trio cleared the Shield from the ring. Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback chased them to the ringside and fought them into the crowd and eventually ran them off and celebrated with the fans. The good news is that WWE thinks highly enough of the Shield that they put them at the top of the hour. The bad news is that the Shield's promo didn't really connect. The live crowd was listening, yet they weren't reacting because there wasn't much for them to latch on to. It felt like a promo designed to get the fans who dislike Cena behind the Shield. But even they didn't seem to be reacting. The announcers set up a recap of the Heyman and Punk segment to open the show. A graphic tied to The Rock later on in the show. Then Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez were shown with a Mexican bucket backstage. As Ricardo was handing the bucket to Del Rio, who grabbed his towel out of the bucket. Lawler said Del Rio is up next. Commercial break. Graphic noted the WWE app has been downloaded over 4 million times. I haven't gotten it. That's great and all, but the free ProWrestling.net app has been downloaded 4 million and one times. Okay, that's a lie, but it could be the truth if you're downloading it tonight. Yeah, I'm helping promoting ProWrestling.net. Even that's not true, but you should really download it. You get more news on ProWrestling.net. And if you're waiting for the app, oh, sorry, don't have the video tutorial that shows how to download the app. Match number 6, Alberto Del Rio with Ricardo Rodriguez versus Damian Sandow in a non-title match. Sandow cut a great anti-country music promo prior to the match. Del Rio led the fans in chanting "C" throughout his match, which he won with a cross arm breaker. Del Rio beat Damian Sandow in a minute and 15 seconds. After the match, Del Rio cut a promo saying he agrees with Show. The time for talking is over. And said once his match was Show is over, Show could take his cruiser anywhere in the world, including Mexico. Del Rio said there's only one place he's going, WrestleMania. Wade Barrett was shown walking backstage as the pre-commercial music played. Suddenly, Bo Dallas knocked him down with a shot. Dallas threw Barrett into the metal stairs and casing and punching him until security broke them up. Coleslaw said that Barrett was supposed to be in action after breaking, which he was. Sandow was such a riot on the mic, he just has to have an on-camera interaction with Bob Backlund. During WrestleMania weekend, Ricardo is much easier to like than nice guy Del Rio at this point. Is it wrong that I could end up pulling for Team Cracker Power over the pandering champion with the Mexican flag bucket? Then we get another Fandango vignette showing. Well, again, he goes, Fan-dang-go. And I still believe it's Johnny Curtis. Match number 7, Wade Barrett versus Kofi Kingston, a non-title. Video aired of Barrett beating Kingston to win the title. Coleslaw said it was a renewal of the great rivalry. Kingston got plenty of offense on early. Barrett dodged a trouble in paradise. Barrett pulled the ring apron over Kingston's head and blasted him with the bullhammer and pinned him. After the match, Barrett yelled for Bo Dallas. Nothing happened, and the match took 3 minutes 5 seconds. The announcers hyped Kane versus Ziggler for after the break. We've reached a point in the night when the live crowd is officially burnt out. Crowd usually comes to life for the Kingston regardless of how he's being used, but the fans sat on their hands during the match. By the way, .NET reader Ahmed was at the show, noted that they played up the Mark Henry attack by carrying Hornswoggle out of the ring on a stretcher from earlier in the show. Announcers hyped Randy Orton versus Mark Henry for SmackDown. And your main event wrestling match, Kane versus Dolph Ziggler with Big E and AJ for a spot in the Elimination Chamber match. Booker and Long were shown watching again on the backstage monitor. After a couple of minutes in of ring action, Kane pressed Ziggler into the air and then teased the choke slam. Ziggler rolled out of the ring, heading into the commercial break. The break couldn't have come soon enough. Cole was starting to tell viewers AJ told him earlier in the day that Beyonce and Jay-Z have nothing on her and Dolph, and that she thinks that she will perform at the Super Bowl. As crazy as her character has been, that doesn't sound consistent with it anyway. After all, we already know who sang at Super Bowl. After the break, Kane knocked Ziggler to the ringside with an uppercut. Langston stood up and glared at Kane. Before they could go at it, Ziggler attacked Kane from behind. Later, Ziggler hit the Famouser, but Kane kicked out at a pin attempt, and Kane came back with a side slam for a 2 count. Kane went to the top rope, but AJ distracted him long enough for Dolph to avoid Kane's move. Ziggler bounced off the ropes and accidentally knocked AJ off and into Langston's arms. And Ziggler turns around and looks at them and was distracted by AJ following it into his arms. And Kane gets a choke slam in the win. Kane defeated Dolph Ziggler in 10 minutes 20 seconds to earn the spot in the Elimination Chamber match. So now we have six entrants into the Elimination Chamber. Kane, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Mark Henry, Jack Swagger, and Chris Jericho. The crowd was slow to get into the match as well, but they did fire up a bit from some of the bigger spots late in the match. There was plenty of gas, but whenever Ziggler would sell a big move, the chamber match has the potential to be excellent. In fact, this is a really loaded Elimination Chamber pay-per-view lineup. The Elimination Chamber video was shown. The Rock makes his entrance and said it's a special night because they are sold out and because he's been waiting to say, finally, The Rock has come back to Nashville. Rock told a story about moving to Nashville when he was 15 and going to a local high school. Already 6'4", 220 pounds, and he kicked puberty's candy ass. Rock said it didn't matter how big he was. He still didn't get any play from all the girls at his high school. He said all the girls thought he was an undercover cop. He said he hung out in a bar up the road listening to country music, and his friend was downtown Bruno. He said someone magical walked in one night. No, not Jeff Jarrett. Rock said in response to a fan, funny. He said not Willie Nelson, who he hoped. Rather, a crackhead walked into the bar and asked if anyone wanted to buy a car. He said everyone in the bar wisely ignored the crackhead, but Rock, 15 years old, he said it was a true story. He recalled paying $40 for the car. Rock said he left the bar in his new car and heard something in the back seat. He discovered another crackhead. Rock said then he wondered whether the car was stolen, so he did the most mature thing he could have done at age 15. He ditched the bitch in a Burger King parking lot and walked away his ass right back to Tootsie's Lounge in Nashville. Rock recalled taking control of his life at 25 years old and working his first match in the Nashville Fairgrounds at a flea market and car dealership for only $40. And then we get CM Punk's music interrupts. Heyman and Punk walked onto the stage. Rock said the last time he saw them, they were reenacting a love scene from Twilight. Rock brought up the new stipulation and told him to bring it. Rock noticed that Punk was smiling. Rock said he was going to beat his punk ass at Elimination Chamber and threatened that if he walked down the ramp, he would beat his ass all over Nashville. Rock removed his shirt. Punk and Heyman headed down to the ramp, but stopped just before entering the ring. Heyman asked Punk what he thinks. Then told he has his back. Punk turned toward the entrance, but then turned back around and darted toward the ring. Punk caught Rock with several punches and shot to the ribs. Rock came back and went for the people's elbow, but Heyman tripped him up. Punk performed the GTS on the Rock and left him lying in the middle of the ring. Punk picked up the title belt and left the ring. Heyman yelled that the belt belonged to Punk. At the top of the ramp, Punk said story time was over. He said every time Rock wants to bring it because it belongs to him, he's just going to take it. Punk held the title belt above his head, and Heyman heaped praise on him to close the show. I enjoy a comedic Rock promo as much as all on the next person, but why in the world couldn't we get another Rock and Punk verbal exchange? We've had a grand total of one true in-ring verbal exchange, which is the same number of Rock concerts that we've seen during the build for the two matches. They put some heat on Punk, but I thought they might find a way to play up Rock being counted out as a reminder that he could drop the WWE title that way. Overall, this was another straightforward show with plenty of hype for the Elimination Chamber. It really dragged during the last 30 minutes that led up to the Rock appearance. Live crowd was noticeably drained, even though the in-ring action was solid. And your dark match main event, we'll also do it on the SmackDown viewing for Raw. John Cena defeated Dolph Ziggler in the dark match main event. Of course, the Punk was removed to keep him healthy. Thanks to Matt Brink and Ahmed, both described it as a good match. There were a lot of near falls and a rough bump that allowed Big E Langston to hit the big end on Cena. But Cena still came back with attitude adjustment for the win. And as I was saying, Cena and Ryback versus CM Punk, and Ziggler in the main event tag match had changed. Punk got physical during the segment with The Rock, but it's possible he was removed and they scrapped the match. Thanks for viewing. Peace out. Stay tuned sometime tomorrow for your spoilers for Superstars, Saturday Morning Slam, and SmackDown. Thanks. Peace out.